Don't touch that dial. You're tuned in to the Dread Podcast Network.
Welcome to Development Hell. For every horror movie that hits V.O.D, countless others end up D.O.A. Development Hell is the podcast dedicated to unearthing these cursed horror productions. We're going to find out what went wrong, and then decide if these titles still stand a shot at the green light. I am your host, Josh Corngut. I am the managing editor of Dread Central. I am also a filmmaker in Toronto, Canada. This podcast is a proud member of the Dread Podcast Network. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Development Hell. We were on a bit of a summer vacation, and, well, it's September, October already, so we're back. We started last week, but we actually are, 2 episodes now into a brand new mini-series. We've been promoting it. We are talking Dark Universe. Just a little recap. So this is the infamously canned series of reboot movies that Universal Studios was developing, turning their classic monsters into this ecosystem of action-heavy movies in the vein of the MCU. So on our second episode today, we will do some recapping on what Dark Universe is, in case maybe you missed the last episode. And even if you didn't, there's so many moving pieces, it's very confusing. But what's more important is for today, we are featuring The Invisible Man. Now, we are kind of ultimately talking about the canceled Invisible Man that was going to star Johnny Depp, but because that's about 3 sentences worth of information, we are going to dig into this franchise as a whole because there's just so much there. Joining us for this entire mini-series is the Monsters That Made Us podcast. So we've got Dad Colón. Oh no. See, I can't do that. We have Dad Colón. I'm just going to call you that. And Mike Manzi, aka the Invisible Dad and Monster Mike. These guys are the two behind the Monsters That Made Us. And they celebrate all of the Universal classic monsters and everything in between. So let's start by reintroducing you, Dan. Who are you? And tell us a little about yourself.
Hello, Josh. Great to be back. I am the Invisible Dan Colón, and I am a co-host of the Monsters That Made Us, and that's.
I mean, that's enough, really.
And he's back.
But and I'm back.
And he's back. But also exciting. We have a new voice this week. We've got Mike. Can you introduce yourself? What's your childhood trauma, or just tell us about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Mike Manzi. In around 2015, I co-founded the Cage Club Podcast Network with my friend Joey Lewandowski. That in and of itself has turned into a monster of a network where we do multiple shows. It started as a Nick Cage podcast network, and then it went to other actors. Friends started doing other shows. Shows became shows, spin-offs, all this kind of stuff. It led to the Monsters That Made Us for Dan and myself. I met Dan in college. We had a couple courses together. World Cinema Movements was the first. I remember a very good course together.
Wait. What was your profs? Shout them out. Do you remember their name? You don't. That's okay. I don't remember any of my profs.
Her perfectly, though. But we watched Caligari in that class. We watched Dr. Caligari, if I'm not mistaken, Dan.
That's fun.
World Cinema Movement.
I want to say Emily or something.
Oh, it was a first name basis kind of thing.
Oh, she was super.
No, was that Marta?
Oh, it might have been Marta, actually. Yeah, you're not. Yeah, okay.
Marta.
Again,
no, she's listening. Come on,
she was dope. Yeah, she was cool. And I'm a lifelong monster kid, so that's why I'm here.
We talked a little bit about it with Dan before, but like, where did it start with you? Like, what was the catalyst for your monster journey?
Yeah, like, we went through this on our show a little bit, and I was trying to think about it for this show to be as clear as possible and like go through my memories. And it's like always been there, like Dan said, from like Sesame Street to cereals and all that. But like a lot of I had siblings, I had older siblings. A lot of their toys were like the Remco little monster toys were mixed in with their Star Wars toys. Godzilla was like, ever since I saw him as a little boy, he's always been like my number one monster. So I remember like,
isn't it a lady?
They.
It's they. Okay.
I think because it's like an amphibian. I think they can go back and forth if Jurassic Park hasn't lied to me enough.
That's so cool of them. Okay.
Yeah, because they have offspring. But I mean,
oh wow.
So the Godzilla was on TV, and then after that, like Abbott and Costello would be on a lot, and they would meet the monsters. And I think as a little kid, those were my first references. And then I was into comics. So the Hulk was a big one. A lot of Universal references mixed in with that character. Fantastic Four had an invisible person on the lineup with Invisible Woman. So that, I think, was like the genesis. And throughout my life, it's just kept kind of growing throughout the ages with the new creatures for the 80s and the 90s and so on. And then it all kind of looped back around all the way back to the beginning when Dan, invited me to be co-host on his show. So, it was a great opportunity to go back and refresh myself and refamiliarize myself with all the original classics and where it all sort of started in America.
Cool. Monsters never die. Wait, you just brought up comic books. These guys made it into the comic book world, right? Like Swamp Thing or something? Is that unrelated?
Oh, yeah. Well, Dracula is a character in the Marvel Universe.
What?
Yeah, he fights Blade.
Yes.
Oh, does he lose? He would lose.
Can I blow your mind for 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Uncanny X-Men number like 4 or 6 or something, or an early one. They fight Frankenstein's monster.
Oh, yeah.
They should win that.
It is bonkers. It's bonkers. Yeah, they'll probably win that, but
yeah.
They're peppered in there. They're peppered in for sure.
Cool. It makes sense.
Werewolf at Night, certainly drawing from the Universal monsters as well.
Okay, that's true. That's true. Okay, is Swamp Thing absolutely just made for comic books? Was that like something before that?
I don't think so.
Okay, always mix up Swamp Thing and Creature from the Black Lagoon because honestly, they're trying to make me mix it up.
Swamp Thing was a DC character, and then became a movie, and maybe a TV series.
Kind of TV show. I think it kind of got canceled. Kind of wasn't here. It was good, whatever it was.
Yeah. And then the big joke at Marvel is they have Man-Thing, which is their swamp monster, and he's giant sized.
Yeah, I literally, Mike, I literally talked this week about how I have a giant sized Man-Thing, and that joke never gets old to me.
I mean, I'm laughing.
Yeah.
So you know what? It's an ecosystem. Have you heard me use that a few times already? I really like to say
it.
Thank you. My boss used it at work once. It's like, it's an ecosystem and we all have to get along. I was like, yeah, that's true. Okay. So I said it before. We're going to be talking about the Invisible Man today, sort of as a focus. We're going to go back in time. We're going to talk about the book, the movies, all of that. But the ultimate goal here is to talk about the canceled version, which I think was around 2016 was its announcement. But before we jump in, why don't we revisit what the Dark Universe was? Because I have been researching it and I've been talking about it. I'm still not totally sure. So the one thing I want to talk about again is this publicity photo, just because it's the funniest thing.
It's it's quickly becoming like my all-time favorite photo in history, like there's like those like people signing things after war and they're all lined up and they're all famous generals and shit. But like this takes the cake. Sorry if I curse. Can we curse? I'm sorry.
Yeah, please curse. The curse podcast. Yeah, I love it too. It's so funny. Like I want to like end every episode with it. And then like, as I said, like have whoever we're finished with fade away. Although I don't know if Girly's really on it. Like, why is Girly on that photo? Do we know? Is it because like we didn't have any girls, so we need Girly?
She was Mummy, So
I know, but we also had the mummy guy there, right? Like, we had Mr.
Yeah.
She was, you know what am I saying? She was the best part of that movie, so she deserves it.
Yes.
What I want to know is why Angelina Jolie was not in.
Yeah, exactly. Where was she? She wasn't signed on yet. She was like, what?
She was probably like weighing her options. She's like MCU or UDU.
Wrong both ways. No, I don't know. I never saw Eternals.
Well, there you go. So she didn't.
It looked like a draw, and I should have seen though. It looked cute. Like I want to get high and just like feel that fantasy maybe for 10 minutes. But
it in that way, it's kind of a mind blower. It's got moments where you're just like, whoa,
oh my god, they're like outside. That's crazy. Outside is the ultimate CGI. You know what I mean? So, okay. Yeah. As a reminder, what is on this photo? Because you're new, Mike, you want to just like give us like paint us a picture. It's worth 1,000 words.
So speaking of dark universe, everybody clad in black. First of all, notice. We have Tom Cruise dead center, not the only one in street clothes, not wearing a suit, black shirt, dark jeans.
On the go.
Love it. Ready to run at any second.
Yeah.
On one side, we have Russell Crowe looking, strong and dapper as ever, very tall and very handsome. He would to play Jekyll and Hyde.
Wow.
Too bad there aren't two pictures of him here. Like
first king.
Seated Javier Bardem, who he was going to play Dr. Frankenstein. Am I mistaken? Or the creature?
He was going to play the creature, yeah.
Already been Wolfman, so like why am? It's so confusing. Sorry.
Oh, well.
Had he?
Or no, he's amazing. Was he not the
That was Benicio.
That was Benicio.
Oh my god, I'm taking this out. I sound racist. I'm sorry.
Come on, Josh.
Oh, no. Should be fair to
Spaniards.
And then we have over on the far side, is it Sofia Boutella? Is that her name?
Yep.
Yeah, she was the mummy, the first mummy in the series before the baton was passed at the end of that flick. And then on like a stool or something, maybe, sitting there with his Jack Sparrow mustache and his big puppy tie and his tattoos showing on his hands, multiple rings, slick back hair, invisible man to be, Johnny Depp.
Yeah, that's true. And
one last note, if I may.
Yeah.
Are they like in an attic? Like, look at this room.
It looks like it.
Hardwood floors and like
they're nowhere.
drywall wall there.
Yeah. Like, what's the CGI set supposed to represent? I think just
why aren't they in a castle? Be in a castle or something.
Oh, a castle would be cool. Maybe they're in Dark Castle. They rented out Dark Castle.
Oh. They haven't furnished it yet.
Okay, guys. So, wait, I'm sorry to do this, but there was a Dark Castle movie at TIFF. They're back. Sorry.
No way.
Not really. Just like kind of, and it sucked. Anyway.
No, the thing I like about this photo is that Tom Cruise is the only one not in formal wear. Yeah. He's in a black t-shirt and jeans.
No, it's commanding though. You're like, okay, you're the boss, I guess.
He's like I think like he's trying to position himself as like the Wolverine of the group and
the Rogue,
the Hugh Jackman, like the anti-hero,
the Maverick,
sort of flip-flop between all the movies maybe, and like you could see his veins in his arms, and he hasn't had any water for 3 days maybe. You could see the muscles in his like he's wearing the tightest shirt on earth on purpose. So I think that was calculated.
They're all so ghoulish except for her. And not in like
so Vogue. It's like
it does, yeah.
No, it wants to be Vogue. It's giving Entertainment Weekly.
Too much cred.
I love this photo. We're gonna be featuring it. I don't know how I haven't posted it anywhere yet because I'm crazy. I don't know. We'll talk about it every week. So what was Dark Universe? It was a concept inspired by pretty much obviously the Avengers as a cinematic universe approach to the classic monsters. As the Avengers kind of demonstrated, an interconnected universe could drive big box office numbers and engagement. So we launched with The Mummy. It was really supposed to hard launch all of this, and unfortunately it was a critical commercial failure. So it was all scrapped. Okay, it wasn't all scrapped. Dark Universe still does exist. This is one of my favorite tidbits. It's like a section within the upcoming amusement park, Universal Epic Universe. I can't decide if it's the worst title for an amusement park or the best title. Universal Epic Universe is like, it makes me feel crazy to say.
It sounds like bad writing, like, because you got universe and universal.
I know, but or is it genius writing?
Well, yeah, because it's very kind of catchy in that way.
Like, the universe never ends. Okay. Projects that were scrapped. There were so many, but they include Bride of Frankenstein, The Wolfman, Dr. Jekyll, and Mr. Hyde, and The Invisible Man. So why don't we start talking about the Invisible Man? Have one of you read the book or are very familiar with the book in any way?
I have. It wasn't recently, it's been a while, but I do remember I like H.G. Wells' writing. Like, I read a lot of his stuff. So, I remember telling people to read that specifically because it really gets into the mind of the killer in a lot of ways. I feel like it was maybe a newer thing, sort of like in literature, or maybe not. I could be, wrong about that. But for me, it was one of those times where I was like, kind of freaked out that this, you read internal monologues all the time, but this guy was like really demented. So that was kind of,
so it was like the first POV horror, and Dracula, the book, was the first found footage horror because it was like letters, and the specs. So yeah, H.G. Wells serialized like stories in Pearson's Weekly, eventually put together into a book, I believe 1897 or so. Concerns Griffin, the scientist who's able to make himself invisible through Wobbity Book. And after he does that, he goes a little cuckoo banunu. I have to take that out. That's offensive. But he lost it. And, now he's a famous icon in horror. There was the first movie that started it all, of course, which was the 1933 Universal film directed by James Whale. When was the first time you guys came into sort of contact with this movie? Who wants to go first?
I don't recall the very first time I watched The Invisible Man, but I do know that ever since that first viewing, I have loved this movie. The Invisible Man has been my favorite of the Universal monsters ever since. I loved James Whale's direction, and I love Claude Rains' performance. Just everything about it is fantastic. So like I can't pinpoint with any particular degree of accuracy when that was, but
okay, but it's your number one, like, of all the baddies.
In terms of the characters, the Invisible Man is my favorite. It's just pure happenstance that my name rhymes with man, hence the Invisible Dan.
Is it? Nothing is happens.
It just worked out that way. But So in terms of the characters, Invisible Man is number one. We can get into movies at another time, but yeah,
sure. And Mike, where'd you encounter this dude?
So I think when I was in high school, I got like back into the Universal monsters, I think in large part to a channel we had called Turner Classic Movies. And I could swear I watched all these at one point on Turner Classics, and this one just felt so current. Like it felt modern in a way that the other ones felt kind of older, or like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just seemed like the sensibilities of it were ahead of its time somehow. Like, it's just like, this plays like it was shot like a couple years ago. So that was always great. And the special effects are mind-blowing. And I think that's part of the shock sometimes when you watch. Like, it is shock. Like, he's really going for it in both directions with the humor and the violence in that one. So it's almost like exploitation. It's like an early kind of horror exploitation sort.
Oh, really? So
I kind of think so, maybe.
Like, of the monster movies at this point, like, this is the one that push people's buttons maybe the most.
I think it feels like one that's pushing it in both directions. That's saying like, we're trying to make you laugh at this, and we're trying to make you be kind of shocked at that. Like that character goes insane and kills a lot of people and is a very horrible person. And on the other end, there's like the townsfolk that are trying to just sort of understand what's happening and can't comprehend it. And then like all this sort of humor is born from that. the balance of what we're watching out of this. So,
Mhm.
and the performances are very over the top as well. It almost becomes like an opera comedy of sorts to
Well,
me.
let's talk about that lead role. So we've got Claude Rains as Dr. Jack Griffin, the scientist who becomes invisible and then terrorizes a whole lot of people. It's the experiment itself, which I think you see a lot in like superhero movies down the line, that drives him to madness and pranks and murder and violence. Claude Rains, like, what do we have to say about that performance?
Yeah, I mean it's classic Claude Rains. As I've never really seen him before or since. You know, I look at some of his other performances in Casablanca and The Wolfman, and he's a very different actor in those. But here, and maybe it's because we never see him. Maybe he felt on some level that he could really cut loose and really swing for the fence, because he dials this performance to 11, and it is off the charts. But that enthusiasm, I think, is infectious, and one of the reasons why I like this movie as much as I do, and why I like this character and this performance. It's sort of like what Mike was talking about with it being kind of exploitative. I think he's playing this character who kills a lot of people, and the movie is done so because I've never really seen a performance like this from him anywhere else. It's just like the career defining performance for me.
Uh,
Yeah.
no?
One thing I think is like pretty unique about the character and the performance is that it's almost 100% entirely vocal. Like, sure, we get him bandaged up in the overcoat with the goggles, and like that's all super amazing looking. Like, that's just such a great design. But like a lot of the time, we don't see his face ever until the very final frame of the movie. Like, that's huge, so like buried that ego as an actor, fantastic, go to other places. But like it's a vocal performance, it's a voiceover performance. And like we're talking sort of about still the pretty early days of sound movies, right? So like it's kind of cool in the sense that like it's taking advantage of that technology in a lot of ways, where it's just this voice, where like in the past we had silent films where it's just the bodies, and in this we have a character that's like a disembodied voice for a lot of the film. So I think like that's interesting. Like that might have been hard for audiences to like wrap their head around, like kind of like just what is even going on in this movie? Where's the body? Like just the voice. But I love all that about Claude Rains' performance. It's like he's got such a unique voice that I almost feel like whoever plays the Invisible Man from that point on should also have a very easy to sort of pinpoint, would be like, oh, it's that guy. And in fact, Vincent Price will be the next Invisible Man. And it's like another very distinguishable voice, a guy who's kind of known to sound a certain way. So I really like that about it.
Yeah, it's almost as though Claude Rains is taking, so like with silent film actors, the instinct was to sort of overact, right? Because you had to overemphasize to compensate for the lack of sound. And here he's kind of doing the same thing but with his voice. So I don't know if that was going through his mind at all while he was performing in this role, but it's, to me, that's what it seems like. That sort of silent actor instinct or theatrical actor instinct to project, to act bigger for the people in the back seat.
I don't think he was initially even planned to be cast in this film. My understanding, it was also going to go to Boris Karloff. But I guess that was changed when the movie went over to James Whale. So this was going to be the second film after Dracula, but first we got Dracula, then we got Frankenstein, then we have The Invisible Man. Do you think at this point this is when they're starting to realize we have this building universe? Do you think before this, the master plan was to have this world, or do you think it started to solidify brick by brick?
Yeah, there were a couple sequels too. I think like Dracula's Daughter came out before this movie, and there was, maybe another Mummy in there or something. But like each of the singular monsters seem to be growing in their own, sort of like in their own right, on their own.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, I don't know if they were necessarily,
I hear you.
like,
It's-
right? Like
Yeah, like
those-
Jason and Freddy in the 80s, they were parallel. You can't remove them from the same conversation, but they are distinct.
but it's inevitable, right? I mean, Jason and Freddy, that fight was epic, right?
Right.
So-
Yeah. Yes. Because we talk about the monsters as this grouping, right? But I guess that's interesting insight that, yeah, it's not really. Really, it's just these different franchises from an era.
Well, if I may sort of make a supposition here, I don't think this early on that anybody was thinking shared universe, because that really wasn't a thing. The Universal Monsters sort of established this concept on the screen as like bringing all these characters, and now, you see that all the time. But at this point, I don't think that's going through anyone's mind. I think the reason why that eventually became a thing, these Monster Rally films where you'd have a bunch of them together in the same one, came from a place of desperation. By that point, the monster movies weren't making as much money as they had in the 30s. They weren't the prestigious films that they were in the 30s. And so Universal was trying to squeeze every dollar they could out of these characters. And also, by this time, it was very common to see second and third runs of Dracula in a double feature with Frankenstein. And so people would go to the theater for these double features and see both movies back to back. So I think there's some combination of those elements led to somebody saying, why don't we put a bunch of them in the same movie, and then everybody can just come and it'll be this epic idea. You know what I mean? That Wolfman Meets Frankenstein was the first one. And then, from there, they started adding 2 and 3 and 4 monsters. And then it just became this thing that would earn a profit, right? The more monsters you put in there, the more people want to come see it. And so, I don't, at this point, I think it's too early to say, but I think that's why ultimately we ended up with what we got. I think it was a combination of the...
Well, and that sounds very organic in a way that this Stark Universe plot was not at all. So maybe there's something there that, you can't fake this kind of a thing with an audience. They kind of have to decide for you.
Well,
Before we move on from Invisible Man to 1933, there are a shit ton of sequels. There's Invisible Man Returns 1940, which is a long time afterwards. There's Invisible Agent 1942. There's Invisible Man's Revenge. Are there more?
There's Invisible Woman.
Invisible Woman.
Holy shit, not Invisible Woman.
Well, I feel like each of them have some merit. None of them ever reached the heights of the original by any means, but the second one has Vincent Price, so that's cool. Invisible Agent. Invisible Agent? He's a Nazi hunter.
Yes.
So that's awesome. It's great. It's like a total send up. It's like almost a Mel Brooks film. It's
So it's not trying to be spooky?
No, it's more of like a
pro-war propaganda kind of.
Oh yeah. Blow them up.
I can't remember Invisible Man's Revenge clearly, but Invisible Woman's great. There's a lot of amazing stunts in these movies, and in that one, is it Vera West who does the gowns for most of the Universal horror films? She basically has like a fashion show in the middle of that movie of like, here's what she's been up, like, check it out.
Was it targeting women, the Invisible Woman?
For sure, it's like a rom-com, right, Dan? Like, what did you say?
It's a little bit of a slapstick comedy.
Why? Okay.
Let's put it this way: one of
lady.
One of the Three Stooges is in it.
Yes,
and so was the who played the Wicked Witch of the West? She's in it as
Hamilton.
Merge.
And it's the only one that completely abandons the invisibility formula. They sort of changed it completely. It became like a machine that turned you invisible and had the ability to change you back.
Right.
So
fucking weird. I love
so so while the rest of them have some tie to the Griffin formula, that's the only one that stands apart, and it's the one that I enjoy least, maybe for that reason. But like Mike said, they all have some degree of merit, and I do think that is a fun movie. It's just when you stack it up next to the others, it's the one that stands out as it's the weird one.
I want to hear just a little bit about the Invisible Man Returns. I did not know Vincent Price was the Invisible Man. That's cool. Were they going for spooks with that one? What were they up to?
So the Invisible Man movie across the board are the ones I think where Mike and I really started to understand and see how not just the Invisible Man, but these characters were very malleable and could be used to tell any kind of story. And the Invisible Man goes from like a horror movie. Invisible Man's Returns is sort of like a film noir. Vincent Price is arrested for a crime he didn't commit, so then he turns invisible and spends the movie trying to hunt down the guy who is the real killer. And then there's, like I said, Invisible Woman's kind of like a comedy. Invisible Agent's a World War II spy thriller. So yeah, that's the franchise that we really started to key in on. That particular thing is that you can tell whatever story you want with these characters.
I fucking love that. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to watch some of these. Now, the one I really want to watch is the Invisible Man's Revenge, because neither one of you seems to have any memory of it. So it doesn't exist. I'm curious.
I got to rewatch that too.
Well, you know what? It doesn't stop there, because the Invisible Man, well, he just keeps on coming. Here is some information about, why we're all here today, really, which is the Dark Universe canceled iteration of the Invisible Man. A lot of this information does come from a Deadline exclusive, starting with Johnny Depp's casting. We got word here that Universal put Johnny Depp in the lead role of the Invisible Man, and it didn't take long before he pulled out and it got sort of reworked into a very different movie. But I believe this was like a big part of the push to get A-list celebrities leading each of these films sort of in line with what we were seeing with the MCU. Alex Kurtzman and Chris Morgan behind The Mummy were sort of revitalizing this whole show, I think. And, well, you can really see the mirrors between what they're doing with these movies and what they were doing with the MCU. And I think they even said, unquote, that they were establishing like a large writer's room to develop all of these interconnecting stories. Depp was second up after Tom Cruise, who would end up in a movie. But it all kind of fell aside. So I want to start by maybe getting your input on Johnny Depp being casted in The Invisible Man. So this is before a lot of the Johnny Depp drama sort of occurred in the news. And I think I want to touch base on that in a little bit. But before we get there, on just a surface level, like, can you see why this casting was made? Does it make sense to you? Like, was it a good idea at the time?
I mean, I'm personally, for me, I think of Johnny Depp. He's in two movies I adore, which is Ed Wood, which is an amazing performance, and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, another one. But then after that, I just kind of, for some reason, consider him Jack Sparrow,
Hey, Sleepy Hollow is my favorite movie of all time.
Okay, Sleepy Hollow's good. I mean, like, his Tim Burton work, I like the Sweeney Todd, too. He's good in that. He can he can carry a tune. It's just, I was kind of surprised because, for reasons I kind of mentioned earlier, he doesn't, to me, bring this kind of vocal distinction that I would have kind of related to the Invisible Man that I wanted.
Not in the right way, like in a funny way. But yeah.
Right. I could picture him making up a voice, like a man, not necessarily like his Willy Wonka voice or anything, but like making something up, like doing a British accent. Like, I don't need that again from Johnny Depp,
Rango voice. Randro?
Something like that. That was like so weird. It was like Chinatown for kids.
I didn't see it. That's
okay. Check it out. But yeah, I was kind of surprised because it did kind of just feel like, oh well, we can just kind of bank on that. Like, people are going to show up because he's a big movie star. It didn't necessarily seem like they were filling the role with a specific star for a purpose. It was just like, let's get someone big in there for now. And, maybe in the sequel, we'll do what we do and we'll pass the torch to another guy. He'll become visible in the first 15 minutes in the second movie, and it's not Johnny Depp anymore.
That's so real. Even the MCU had more of an organic rollout than this. This is so Frankensteined together. And it does just
Mike,
celeb.
Yeah, Mike, you read my mind. My first thought was that they just at the beginning were trying to recruit the biggest stars they could, regardless of how well they suited the material. And as we talked about in the last episode, Tom Cruise really not well suited for the role he played. And so could Johnny Depp play an Invisible Man? Sure, but it wouldn't even be in my top 10 choices for an Invisible Man. I think it was really just, hey, he's one of the biggest stars in the world. We'll get asses in seats, and then we'll figure out the rest later.
Wait, top 10 choices. Have we thought about this?
No.
He just knows he's not in it.
He's not in it. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think there's someone in the photo that would have been amazing. Javier Bardem.
Oh, interesting.
That voice can be so soothing and so menacing. Yeah.
Gotcha. About No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was scary. Yeah, that's a fucking scary guy. That guy's scary.
Could be
interesting, or like someone who's funny but then make them scary, and then that's weird. Like Tim and Eric. Tim, make him him invisible. I'm scared.
I think that's what like Jordan Peele's about to go for, because something in that turn. But I think that he might, I worry then that we get like a Seth Rogen, which no offense to Seth Rogen, I like him, fellow Canadian, Anyway,
it's fine. Just not in my horror. Not in my horror.
Exactly. I think that's my point. Is like the boardroom would be like, oh, that'd be.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah,
yeah. Everyone else is kind of like, there's other comedic actors that could pull this off.
We'd have Invisible Kush, though, probably, if that happened.
Yeah, you could always tell he's in a room because he smells like...
Yeah. That's true. It's so interesting sometimes when comedy people do horror. It can work or it can be so flop. We're talking about Danny, what's-his-face, that rewrote all those Halloween movies. He also did Pineapple Express. Who am I talking about?
Oh.
Danny
McBride.
Yes, fuck that guy. What did he do to my precious Halloween movies? So rude.
Yeah.
Wait.
Him and David Gordon Green was.
I don't recognize that name anymore. He opened TIFF, and apparently it was bad. Have you heard of it? I don't even know. That's some Ben Stiller movie. That's okay. Just trying to think who before we move on would I put into this role. I think I'm gonna stick with him, whatever his last name is.
Tim Heidecker.
Yeah, that's my choice. Or who's that new cringe comedy guy? Fuck, he's in I Think You Should Leave and Detroiters.
Oh, yes.
Tim Robinson.
Yeah. Tim Robinson.
Well, now you got me thinking, and it's like, maybe he doesn't have the voice for it, but like, I almost want to see Bob Odenkirk in this after everything he's done.
Yeah.
Like back then he wasn't on, the serious tip, but like, I feel like now he could be like someone in this picture.
No, that's the second you said it, I was like, yeah, in this whole world. No, Invisible Man, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
See, you mentioned Bob Odenkirk. I'm going to take that a step further and say maybe Bryan Cranston. He's a little bit old for the character. Maybe not, but if they're going to put Johnny Depp in there, I guess it doesn't matter. But because I think of Cranston's ability, like Walter White was capable of being kind of hammy in some
and
scenes.
Scary though,
and also terrifying. So
Malcolm in the Middle, like
pretty scary, so scary,
horrifying.
It actually,
no, you can also work age into the themes of the film.
For sure.
Like that's totally playable.
As soon as I said it, I realized it didn't make any sense, and it really didn't.
I like it. Although who else I'd like him for is the Jekyll, like the host of all the movies. Like the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde role.
So I think I just love Russell Crowe's campiness in that. I mean, like it's not great, but like he's having so much fun. I don't want to picture anyone else in that.
I wasn't here for
I understand.
Respect you being here for it. I love it. I love loving things. I think it's really beautiful, but that was not it.
I just love him as a whole in horror. Like he's doing the Pope stuff now, and
How's The Exorcism not a sequel to the Pope's Exorcist? It's very strange.
I mean, at the end of that movie, they're like, "There's like 99 more exorcisms we got to do." It's a whole thing. Like,
wait, which movie? The Pope's Exorcist or The Exorcist?
Yeah, the Pope's Exorcist. Yeah.
That was a bad movie too.
But fun.
People loved it. I maybe gotta rewatch it. I'm
I think it's The Boy. The Boy is so good. It's
Yeah,
like
he's
the
good.
boy in that
He's
and the
good.
girl in Abigail are like, they should be nominated
Oh
for,
my God, they need a movie.
I don't know.
Send them to space or something. Yeah, Abigail. Well, what are you gonna do? Um, it didn't happen, and we talked a lot last time about why it didn't happen. And to my knowledge, and please pipe in if I'm wrong, there's not a lot of other information so much about this iteration of the Invisible Man. And I think part of the reason is because just a couple of years later, and maybe even before that, they rejigged this into a Blumhouse film. Would it be okay with you guys if I give like a brief little seminar on what it turned into?
Yes.
So by 2019, there's this new adaptation of The Invisible Man. Universal is still obviously behind it, but it's directed by Lee Wannell. This, I believe, his first directorial effort is one of my favorite movies, unfortunately, Insidious 3. But we also have that fucking action movie that I forget the name of. And so he's been around the block as a director. And it stars Elizabeth Moss and Oliver Jackson Cohen, which is funny because I was like, who is the guy? Obviously, nobody I know. So his movie was a lot smaller and darker. And I think they pared the budget down like 1,000,000%. And I think it was given like $7 million or something very small. And they went inward and they talked about themes of domestic abuse and psychological trauma. And instead of the Griffin perspective, we are now with Moss, which was an interesting, you know, relook of this idea. So it came out in February 2020, a very first, time, and it received like critical respect and praise. And I actually think it was something of a success because now Wannell is on he's about to release another Universal movie with Wolfman later this year. So what do we think of this Blumhouse remodel? Maybe Mike, I'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. I think it was actually really smart of Universal to somewhat hand the keys of this monster kingdom over to Blumhouse and say, you've been really successful at the micro budget stuff. You made a ton of, you built this whole brand incredibly fast, so fast.
Yeah.
Like it makes total sense for them to be like, please kind of like help us with our monster problem. In a lot of ways, they became like the Kevin Feige of the thing. Like, it's what they should have done in the first place, ultimately, right? It is like, instead of rushed it all, just like find someone who has proven competent to turn a buck and entertain and not feel cheap. So I think it was really smart of them. And so far, it's been good. I kind of find it amusing that Blumhouse uses some of the classic monsters on their logos now when they have like their other movies, and then it's like mixed in with like some of the newer monsters. I kind of actually enjoy that.
They do, and like the intro thing they have.
I believe so. I believe I saw that in something. Yeah, maybe I could be mistaken, but I feel like when the Blumhouse houses come together and it comes out, and you see like all the creep things.
They have two now, so yeah.
Yeah, and I quite like this as a movie. I think smaller was better. A little goes a long way, especially with The Invisible Man, and because it's such a boy. I mean, again, like I mentioned, it's just the voice mostly, and in this he doesn't even talk. It's even like crazier, and I think the perspective of the victim was a smart way to go because there's a lot of serial killer stuff in the zeitgeist around this time, and True Crime Pod and all that thing, and
yep.
I think I was kind of tired of the killer's perspective in a lot of those ways, and I just wanted, in a weird way, the movie about the victim just felt scarier to me. And I think I just recently finished rewatching it. I loved it again, and I was scared. I was tense. I was like looking around the room of the blank frames, and so like it totally just had me hooks in the whole time. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this was the last movie I saw in a theater before COVID, like before the whole lockdown. And
it's a good one actually for you.
It was, yeah, and I saw it by myself. It was such an amazing experience. And to echo what Mike was saying, I think that the decision to switch the perspective, to make it the perspective of the sort of the victim, in this relationship was brilliant because it sort of circumvented the issue we were just discussing, which is who do we get to play the Invisible Man? By flipping that perspective, suddenly it doesn't really matter who your Invisible Man is, right? He's only in the movie for a short period of time, and you can create your protagonist to be whatever you want that character to be. You're not sort of tied to anything. And so I think that opened up a world of possibilities for them. And I think that it was a fantastic take on the Invisible Man story. I liked the update of, the Griffin character. I thought instead of an invisibility like serum, that it was like an optical like suit.
Yeah.
He was an optics engineer or whatever he was, and so like
Yeah.
it kind of gets into superhero territory.
Yeah, it feels like Iron Man. I'm
Like
sorry.
but they're doing it incidentally. Like
Yes.
they're there, but it doesn't feel like they're trying to be there.
Right.
It just kind of felt very natural. Like I saw the suit and I was like, great kind of twist. It's still science based, and that's the problem. Yeah.
And it
Even sillier somehow, though, conceptually to me.
It didn't require some weird X factor in like a whatever he might inject in himself, right? Like then you got kind of like, oh well, it's some sort of science magic that makes.
I love science magic. Okay,
but in this,
just to sidetrack, have you seen it yet?
No, I can't wait.
Gotta see the substance. Speaking of just like you inject and then it's a scary movie. Anyway, I like that subgenre.
But I liked that even though they don't explain how the suit works, my brain can understand, like just like in the context how it works, without to be told.
Well, it's like a million eyes. It's like an eye monster. It like it's what it sees in the front and projects in the back and vice versa. Like I get the tech. Like it's not that I'm really concerned about. Even like it could be completely like he could she should throw paint or flip a switch and he could be a green screen suit for all I care, kind of.
I'd prefer that. There's something about the science, just personally, of the suit that brings it into more action territory than horror. And I do have that. It's a good movie, but it's a little too far up the action alley for my taste in the end.
I will say that might be what loses that 5th star for me when I'm rating it, is that like there's some unexplained stuff about the suit, like his superhuman strength and his ability to take a bullet. And like, I just, if you're going to go there, maybe you go an extra step and explain some of that stuff too. But this isn't, I don't know. On another level, I love how that's left out this time as well. It makes it more mysterious, and it's just, again, more otherly and just like I understand it less, which makes it scarier.
Right. And I think that is also why having the movie being told from Elizabeth Moss's perspective is a good thing, because she's not the optical expert. So she doesn't really know how the suit works. Jack Griffin, or his name's not Jack Griffin, it's I forget what
Adrian
Griffin. Like he's not really a character. So she kind of has to learn about all of this however she can. So I kind of like that. We don't need to get all that information. We can just sort of understand that it works because it has to. It's a plot device, but it's not so outlandish that I am just wondering, well, how does that work? Like I kind of get it.
And it's a really strong analogy for Scientology.
I don't know how it works, but it just does. No,
it just does.
I buy it. But one thing I do like, I think something that Dan might have touched on, is like the concept that, we don't really know this character, the Invisible Man, and Adrian. We assume, we're assumed he's dead, but we learn all about him through Elizabeth Moss's character.
It's good writing.
It's such good writing.
It is. That's good.
It wasn't the Invisible Man, right? It would be if it was just a guy who faked his own death and like showed up like later in the movie, like, ta-da, I got my brother to do all my dirty work, but I'm really alive. Like,
it's mystery.
Good.
Have you seen the Insidious franchise, or at least the 3 that he wrote, the first 3?
No, I gotta check.
So
behind.
Good. It's also Blumhouse. And it looks just like a run-of-your-mill soundstage, like fog horror movie, but it's so smart and so scary. And I think it's because this guy's really clever. He's like a very clever writer. So I'm excited to see what he does with Wolfman. For me, in this movie, there's just like one sequence really that does make it all worth the while. and it's when the sister gets dispatched in the restaurant. Jesus Louises, that's so scary. Including that scene, like, is there anything points that like really got to you, that scared you, made you go ooh?
Well, it's like moments like that. Just I love how the movie is allowed to come out of nowhere with stuff because it's set up, and then the Invisible Man could be standing in the corner of every shot.
So paranoid. Yeah,
so paranoid, and so that when things happen, they're always shocking and sudden. But not every movie can get away with that, and that's so cool.
Can you paint a picture maybe of that sequence that I'm obsessed with, so people that haven't seen it might have a better sense of it?
Yeah, so she's meeting with her sister at a very crowded posh restaurant after not sending her sister a scathing email, basically disowning her and saying that she hates her. But she has been to, I believe she's been to the mansion at this point, if I'm not mistaken, and she knows about the suit, so she feels like she has all this evidence. And ultimately what happens as she's like apologizing / explaining to her sister, a knife just is kind of like floating in the air, slits her sister's throat, and then winds up in Elizabeth Moss's hand, making it look as if she just murdered her sister, like, out of nowhere. And everyone in the
air before it happens, does she see it, or is it a surprise?
Her sister sees it kind of like floating next to the head
not playing
of is it Cecilia? Of Cece. And then it just like it just seems like it flies across the table and into her hand. But yeah, we know it's the Invisible Man doing it, which is shocking.
And it's so in the open, so bright and busy, which is what's so scary and smart.
I love the hospital sequence towards the end when he takes out the entire hallway of cops. Like, that is like a crazy sort of old boy gauntlet kind of situation.
Sorry, James Wan. Oh, yeah.
And I love how the movie sets up a lot of those payoff sequences, like earlier in the movie when like Elizabeth Moss is like in the kitchen making breakfast, and like she steps out of the frame, I think, and like the burner comes on. Or no,
she
turns the burner on, but then when she leaves, like he turns the flame up, and like, and then suddenly, you know, you never know where he's going to be in any given scene, and that really put me on edge for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it's practical effects too. Like that doesn't like that doesn't need to be CG.
And I like how the movie let us know that he was indeed fucking with her before she was sure. Like we're in a little ahead of her, and it, like, you know, so when she goes to her job interview and her plans are missing, we didn't see him steal the plans, but like we know because he was in the kitchen, like he definitely is doing stuff and setting things up. He took that knife, you know, and then she finds everything in the attic. Like it's just like a really sort of precise game of cat and mouse that he's laid out because he's like a maniac and everything.
You know, we'll get to it in a second, but like Hollow Man was not necessarily a movie that was so, you know, sensitive to the female gaze. Do you think that this movie did a good job with these very obvious, you know, themes of women in peril, stuff like that?
I think so. You know, like in this climate, a lot of people just like don't listen, you know? So sometimes you have to be more than obvious. And if it takes a movie like, and I'm not saying this movie hits anybody over the head. I mean, maybe it does, but I think it fits the genre. I know horror's been doing it since the inception of the genre, right?
But this is sensitive. This is sensitive material, especially for a male filmmaker. I think he does get it right for sure. I think Elizabeth Moss is also a big part of that too. It's interesting though. It's like a risk. It's a swing to go in this direction thematically. It's very serious, and I like it. It works.
Yeah. Oh, let's go ahead, Dan.
Well, yeah, we haven't done our Invisible Man episode yet, so I'm curious to you know, see what I dig up as I prepare for that episode. But I would say that as a man, as a white man, this feels like it does all the right things. You know, not being able to speak from the correct point of view, but I say it feels right, and I would really be surprised to learn that they didn't get some outside help, you know, from some, you know, have someone consult on like the way George Miller did with Mad Max Fury Road. You know, he had
smart. You can tell
the woman who wrote the vagina monologues came in to
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's like, get me the woman writer.
It's like, I'm clearly not the expert on this, so let me hire
That's funny. And Del Toro, I think, almost always has a woman co-writer. at least these days. So I think
Right.
very smart to do.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's taking advantage of like the moment, or of the issue, right? It feels like it's trying to address it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how it comes across to me. For me, again, like Dan, like, straight white male, like I felt informed more, you know what I'm saying? Like I felt more informed actually, especially from Elizabeth Moss's insane performance,
Yeah.
which really shook me at, especially because like I have female friends that, have gone through like traumatic stuff like her, and it's just horrifying to think about. And like so seeing it was very kind of hard to watch. But again, horror movie, so it's interesting. We're mostly able to make a horror movie, which is psychological horror, like real horror like that.
And I do with something like this, yeah.
I've seen episodes of like Star Trek, which is a progressive show, always has been, but episodes of Star Trek where they feel exploitative. And, like Deanna Troi, how many times has she been terrorized by some weird psychic alien? And it just felt like we're going to terrorize her because she's, she can feel emotion better than everybody else. And so I felt like this movie could have easily felt exploitative, and it doesn't. Like Mike said, I did feel like I learned something. I felt like I was understanding the female experience in a way I hadn't before.
Well, the voyeuristic themes here, I do think, are kind of like an interesting contrast to what we're talking about that are not used so appropriately in Hollow Man, but was definitely the talk of the town on the playground, if I remember back in the day. But I forgot, one of you were saying it earlier, even with the first film, it's that POV horror, sort of, and that can be used in, ways that, I don't know, are not super sensitive, but it was done, I think, pretty well here, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like Hollow Man is an exploitation film through and through.
For sure. For sure.
Makes those like when he's at his peak and stuff, and like it's late. I think it's like 99, maybe 2000, right?
Just around there.
Yeah, it's like coming at the tail end of all that. Again, for me, it's like the level.
Paul made that movie. Did you say the director was Paul blah 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 blah?
Paul Verhoeven?
No way. He directed Hollow Man?
Oh no, was it
the guy that did Showgirls?
Hang on,
because I would believe you immediately.
I'm almost positive it's Paul Verhoeven.
That's a crazy person to give to Hollow Man.
Yeah.
Paul
Verhoeven.
What a freak.
It's basically got like the Total Recall score going on the entire movie.
Yeah.
But the guy is like a gore hound, and there's some really shocking, gory moments in this. But like, I agree, like the character that Kevin Bacon plays is truly despicable. And I think they leaned way too hard into that perspective. And it's like, just because I can be invisible doesn't mean I'm going to like go around raping everybody. Like that was so crazy.
The thing that I really hate about Hollow Man, like I remember when I first saw it, I enjoyed it. But then as I've gotten older and matured and saw better movies, I look back on it now and I see all the flaws. And I think where it ultimately fails is that if we're going to compare it to the original Invisible Man story, Kevin Bacon's character is a complete asshole before he's invisible. Like we can say Griffin might have been okay before he went crazy because of the serum.
Yeah, by all accounts.
We can empathize with him on some level. Yes, he's a horrifying monster, but he may have been a good person before that. Whereas Kevin Bacon's character is just a total piece of shit and just gets worse with the invisibility.
It's so true.
And so
he literally like kills a dog with his bare hand.
You can't do that.
And so I watched this movie and I'm thinking, how am I supposed to empathize with him? I can't at all.
Yeah. No, I don't think you.
And so it's just killing for the sake of killing, because that movie is not interested in the questions or the themes that the 2020 movie is kind of dealing with in terms of trauma and PTSD and all of that.
No.
It's just like, we're going to terrorize Elizabeth Shue and Josh Brolin, and it's so gross. Like I expect better from Paul Verhoeven. The fact
You do not.
No, I wouldn't go that far. We're talking about the guy
you made.
Yeah, we're talking about the guy who Total Recall, like the 3-boob prostitute. Like
his last movie was about lesbian nuns that were fucking a lot. Like
that was a metaphor, Mike. No, I'm kidding.
The Martian Mutant Bordello no.
That's funny that it's him. That makes so much sense. Actually, now I like it more, and I didn't dislike it really to begin with. So,
Hell yeah.
why am I keep bringing it up? I'm telling you, it made the news when I was in middle school. That like keeping on the naked lady scene, no rape scene actually. Sorry,
Yeah.
that was at Dublin Heights. So, it was a different era. What are you gonna do? You know, it was a different time. It was called Hollow Man. It wasn't Hollow Man 2 starring Christian Slater, I think.
No way.
Yeah, I think so.
Should have watched that for tonight.
Me too. Wait, you said something really gross happens in Hollow Man. Can you remind us like what the gore sort of stuff was?
Well, there's this one really cool moment when he's hollow and there's like blood all over him dripping and he's like choking someone to death. And it's just like, it looks like a curtain of blood dripping over a person's face. There's just like very cool imagery, I feel. And also when you're phasing in and out of invisibility, like that's not only like amazing special effects, but like it's also very like kind of mentally horrifying for me. Like, again, like some of my favorite horrors, that kind of like existential horror. And it's like, I cannot, if I was turning invisible, like I could not wrap my mind around it. I'd probably like have a heart attack and just die.
Go crazy, kill everybody.
Or yes, exactly. So, which is why I believe like so many of these invisible people take that turn, it's like
Invisible people.
end it.
That's nice.
Can I share my Hollow Man drinking game?
Yes. I'm scared.
So it's one thing, you do a shot every time you see Kevin Bacon's dick in that movie. You see it enough times, like
it was 14A though.
in the thermal imaging, in the sprinklers, like they find ways to, for some reason, have his dick involved in the shot.
Because he's like, okay, it's like my dick in it, and it's not. It was before you were seeing dick in that many things. It's still not.
Still not enough. There's one of my favorite running gags in Always Sunny is like the movie coming out and they're like, where's the full, there's always full frontal in these action movies. Where's the full frontal this time? And it's like full frontal male.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so funny that we had it here. Kevin Bacon, he's naked and everything.
Yes. What's up, Wild Things?
Yeah. Also, I don't know if he was naked in Friday the 13th, but he was there.
Yeah, he was there. He got an arrow.
Yeah, that was a good moment. Next.
Yep.
Anything else to touch on with Hollow Man? Is there anything like, important and visceral?
Not so much about Hollow Man, I feel. I mean, again, it kind of devolves into another action movie at one point where it's like after
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's shot like an action movie from the beginning, but they're at least trying to sort of take their time a little bit until he turns invisible and goes insane and starts like the rampage and blowing up the lab. I really like the lab. Like it's kind of a cool concept in general. I feel like we saw that in a bunch of 90s movies. I think Keanu was trying to break cold fusion in some kind of lab in a warehouse basement or something with a big.
Did he manage?
Rude. Yeah, he did. And Morgan Freeman stole the formula.
Oh, that's so rude.
I think that's what happened.
What movie are you talking about? I have to know now.
The Chain Reaction.
Never seen it.
Watch.
Interesting. Yeah. You know what? It's not pure horror. It's not pure action. There's definitely horror. I remember that fucking dog thing. Why? Don't do that. I don't remember that blood sequence. That sounds cool. But yeah.
Yeah, and also like he gets burned. I'm a sucker for people lit on fire. There's a big burn sequence at the end of this movie too.
Yeah, I would say I would say that I would love to see an Invisible Man movie that really gets brutal. I think that is one of the strengths of Hollow Man. Like for all of its faults, I think that, it's Paul Verhoeven, so of course the violence is going to be off the charts, and I think that that's where it succeeds. A lot of those sequences are really, really cool, minus the dog scene.
I think it was called Bernadetta, the lesbian nun movie, but I don't really remember. Love you, Hollow Man. So we're going to get now into conclusion territory, but I think my first question for you guys here is, where do you think the Invisible Man legacy goes from here? Like, if it was up to you, do we see more movies? Like, how would it evolve, in an ideal world?
Good question. Like there was a rumor Elizabeth Banks was going to make an Invisible Woman film that was not connected to this movie, from what I read or heard or rumor.
Yeah, I heard that too. I actually haven't heard anything about that in recent days.
I'm starting to wonder, like this one was the one they just made was so strong, like, and it kind of had a cliffhanger. I mean, they could not make another if they wanted to, but they should make. I feel like they should keep this going.
I agree.
They're tending to make like one and dones all over the place. Like Renfield and Abigail.
You mean unsuccessful movies? Is that what you?
No, not unsuccessful. Just in the sense that they don't feel like they're starting to start like not so much a franchise, but like
sequel if it had done well for sure.
So. Well, I feel like Abigail did really well, and like everyone I talked to loved that movie, and it's like super gory and a really fun time. And I don't know,
but it did feel complete. Yeah, it did feel complete.
And like I don't know, it just doesn't. It just feels like this could keep going. I wouldn't mind if they just like they did with the originals, and they're like, it's not really connected to what came before. Like you could keep going in that direction if you want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there for whatever, I think they've proven to me that they were able to sort of like pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and like with the Invisible Man and what we've had so far outside of the Dark Universe, I'm
trying to imagine where the Invisible Man goes in a sequel that doesn't kind of cheapen the movie we have. My instinct, the first thought that came to mind is that Elizabeth Moss, because she has the suit at the end of that movie, kind of spins off into a villain herself, but then what does that mean for that first movie? Like, I think we don't learn the lesson, if that's where her character goes. What was the point?
Or maybe she fights more evil people that are scary.
Maybe.
No, I don't think that you're right.
In question, should she have just burned the suit at the end? Is that a stronger ending where it's just like burn the suit instead of now she's becoming what she hated if she puts the suit on? Like I'm kind of thinking of
fight vampires.
So that I'm here for.
So yeah, I just don't know where it would go. And
the Invisible Boy, it's like Origins. Invisible Men, gay.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like in agreement with Mike in that just the movies that have come out feel like complete stories. I don't think any of them need sequels. So I'm having a hard time just imagining where they would go, is all.
Like Incel movie or something where it's like we feel invisible and it's like
well, that's the thing is like, do you keep it on message or do you switch it up to a different genre? Like do they do something a little more campy next time? Like, I'm not talking about like the Invisible Teen, like great.
Oh, God, that's cool.
Yeah, no.
Or you change the perspective entirely. Elizabeth Moss is completely out of the picture, and maybe that suit technology ends up in the hands of somebody else.
Yeah, it's like Jumanji rolls up onto shore, and they're like, "What's that?"
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about those original movies is that it's never the same Invisible Man. Every movie it's a different cast of characters, but it all involves this formula, or for the most part.
Jeffrey Rush. Get Jeffrey Rush to do his Vincent Price impression that he did in House on Haunted Hill.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that'd be fun.
And then that'd be fun. But that.
I like that concept. And it's like, because the feds are definitely going to go in there and raid this guy's lab. I mean, he had 14 degrees on his wall. Like he went to every school. Like people knew what he was up to. He had contracts up the wazoo. I'm sure he was a global player in the field of whatever he was doing. His, vision or whatever that crap. But their dynamics. They're going to get that tech. Someone is going to take that.
That sort of movie, though,
Invisible Phone,
feels like a step back from the more mature themes we got with the original movie. You know what I'm saying? It feels like,
but we have that movie is the problem. It's like to replicate that immediately. Does it make it sort of stale? Like I don't know. They could hit Pater. Like I feel like this is a very sort of narrow road. I feel like the Batman series, the Nolan stuff, got as close as possible to be like, oh, we did a great one. Oh, look at this. The second one is like the first one, but even better. How did we pull that off? And it's like, we made the second one too good. And now the third one,
yeah, they did.
But it's good, but it's not great, So I don't know. I kind of just worry about staying on that path too long.
Right.
So if you kind of, switch it up.
Okay, I think I have a serious answer. I think the way to go is you wait a while and then you go really traditionalist with it. You go more in line with the 33 movie. Maybe even make it a period piece. Make it gothic, make it spooky, maybe black and white, maybe Disney Plus. I don't know.
I love the spectrum there. Maybe black and white, maybe Disney Plus.
Yeah, I don't know, like Werewolf at Night or whatever. Who cares?
All right.
Okay. Well, where in the world can you guys be found on the internet if you so wish to be found? And Dan, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. I'm pretty much on all the social medias at Dan Colón. Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, all that stuff. But the show can be found on Twitter at Monster Made Pod. It can be found on Instagram at The Monsters That Made Us. Pretty much everything is at cageclub.me/monsters. So yeah, I think I have all the information there.
Has no one ever made a dad cologne joke to you before? It was an accident earlier, but I feel like you must have heard it before.
No, that's the first time. So rarely do I come across a new nickname. And so that was the first time for that one.
Why people are like, stinky cologne. What?
Yeah. Having the last name Colón, kids are mean. And I think I've heard every...
Like, you must be from Europe. Like,
yeah.
I've never made a single joke about your last name, Dan. It never even occurred to me that it was like the cologne that we spray. I never put...
Is he joking or is he being honest?
No, I'm being dead serious. Like, I never...
Funnier.
I just heard cologne in my head, but it never put it together.
I think about it a lot because I keep wanting to say colon.
Yeah.
So I'm like, cologne. It's like the spray.
Yeah.
I have phobia about name. And it's going to continue. Okay, and we're going to turn to you now, Mike. Where can we find you?
Sure. I can be found on social media at _Mikester. That's MIKESTIR. And all the other shows that I'm on, which there's quite a few, they could all be found over at cageclub.me.
Yeah, go subscribe to that. How could you not? It's about Nicolas Cage. And also the other one, Universal Monsters. So thank you both for joining me on the second episode of Dark Universe. Believe we're going to see you both in a week for our third episode. It's a secret.
Thank you so much for listening to Development Hell. If you enjoy this podcast, then please do us a major favor of leaving us 5 stars and writing a positive review. It really makes all the difference in the world. We'll see you next week with a brand new episode of Development Hell.
Thank you for listening to the Dread Podcast Network.